Okay. Assalamualaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining CAIR-Missouri's series special on Islamophobia, History of Hate and Discrimination in America. We will be doing... No, I shouldn't be. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. We will be doing a couple of these series, inshallah, for the next couple of months. With a number of very skilled, qualified speakers. We will be discussing Islamophobia on a macro level as well as individual experiences. That being said, our speaker for today is Dr. Ghazala Hayat and our very own board member, Huma Shah.
Hi, assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Ghazala auntie, you're on mute.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for inviting. Okay.
No, thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much. Okay, so can I start sharing my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay. No, not this one. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me just I think it's let me try to find it. It's not showing up. Oh, here we go. Okay. Can everybody see it?
Oh, no, your screen isn't sharing right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's say share screen. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I think it just, I turned it on for beginning and then, okay, well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to invite me. And I mean, I don't consider myself any expert on this, but I did, since I have come to States, which is almost 40 years, that I've kept on learning what's happening. When I go through this, so I was asked to talk about expectation from the new government and also the Islamophobia. So basically what I'm going to talk about, I just want to first go through the Islamophobia briefly. Most of you are very aware of it. It usually happens, I always call about it, it's like having kind of a checkerboard pattern or a puzzle that we all have some pieces, and somebody else can give you a little bit of a tip how to take care of the different issues. Feel free to ask me questions. I think some questions were already sent, and at the end of this, I will go ahead and address all of those. It's possible that most of them I will answer during giving me a talk from this perspective. Another thing, by nature, I am usually optimistic. I look at always that if the glass is half full or half empty. So when we're going to talk about Islamophobia, as I say, I'll give you an example and go from there. And I'll talk about both those half full and half empty. In 2001, when 9/11 happened, I was the chairperson of Islamic Foundation of Greater St. Louis at that time. And it was a Tuesday. I'm almost sure all of you remember. You're younger, maybe it's not, but I mean, if other people, it's just etched in our memory. And Tuesday is, again, today is a Tuesday, it's a very busy day for me since I've joined here. It's a clinic day. I mean, it's very busy. And what happened is, I was driving and I always used to listen to KMOX, and they were going over news or something, and it was literally so boring. So I turned on the music. I said, there's nothing in the news. And then I reached hospital. I went to my staff lounge and getting coffee, and I just saw this one building, one of the Twin Tower was showing some, smoke. So I asked the lady who used to help us when they were serving at the staff lounge, I said, what is this? She said, oh, some Cessna hit the building, you know, kind of somebody, she said that somebody, small plane by mistake has hit the building. That's why there's all this smoke. I said, oh, okay. And I still have. I mean, most of you, I was just drinking coffee and looking at the TV, and I was ready to go to the clinic, and I saw the plane coming, the next plane. And then I just like, you know, most of that time now, they don't show that scene, but I went through that and immediately I knew it was a terrorist attack.
Were you in New York at that time, or were you always in Missouri?
No, I was in St. Louis. I was
Okay.
looking at the screen. No, I was looking at the TV screen.
Okay.
And then I went to the clinic, and it's just like, you know, within half an hour, this and that, one tower has, you know, collapsed. Another one is just like, at the patients kept on coming, and we went for the lunch to staff lounge. And I still remember everybody was quiet. I don't know. And by then we knew, at least we strongly suspected that it was like some terrorist who happened to be Muslim. And I did not know how people are going to react or anything. And then immediately we started having this because of Islamic Foundation. We called because the school, they started getting threat at the Islamic Foundation. So they closed their school and everything. And then the TV people, they came to the hospital, and so this happened. And then on Friday, a lot of non-Muslim call, and they said they're going to come and be at Islamic Foundation to help, you know, like non-Muslim, to like be with us, show their solidarity. So I was driving from home, and my daughter called, and she just hysterical. And she said, you have to come home right now, because we're getting calls at home, and these people are saying, leave this country and this and all those things. So I said, don't worry, I'm on my way. So I came home, and then we called the police, and they said they couldn't track it because it was from some, you know, like at that time it was like payphone, almost 20 years ago, or whoever did it is from there. And then I asked my daughter, I said, we're going to have to go to Islamic Foundation because our non-Muslim, they're all coming there. And we went in there, and I remember hundreds, I think lots of non-Muslims showed up, and they were just there. And I saw my daughter's all things change from our home to Islamic Foundation, which is like just maybe less than 2 blocks from here. And her face lit up because she saw that America is not all about the telephone she received. It's like there are also people who were there. We had people saying that we are going to watch your whole premises for days, so you don't nobody. So I always say, we have to look at the positive, but we cannot ignore the negative. And because we have to make sure that we are ready for that, and we can counter this. So what are the expectations from the new government? I will go over briefly the history, and then we'll decide where we go from there. Okay, so what is phobia? Almost all of us know what it is. It's a Merriam-Webster's dictionary is an exaggerated, usually inexplicable and illogical fear of a particular object, class of objects, or situation. So is Islamophobia just a phobia, which is just exaggerated fear? Like I have exaggerated fear of, I mean, all of the, even cat or dog. I mean, a lot of us have it. That's a phobia, okay? Some people have phobia of drowning. Some people have claustrophobia. Those are different. But I think we need to also know that the phobia, we cannot just label it only phobia, because it reaches to the level of racism, discrimination, all those things. So it has not stopped at that level yet. It is much worse than that. So we need to call it what it is. It's more than Islamophobia. We can't leave it like that. Okay. So as I say, it's not just fear of Islam, which is inexplicable or wide, but it's usually against Muslim being Muslims. So some of the people who are, if we want to call Islamophobic, or kind of this, especially, I don't want to call right or extremist group who are Islamophobic or have this hatred against Muslims and Islam. There also this overt or covert that they don't want Muslim to become part of the society at equal levels. So this is, I said, this is racism. So we have to fight it at the level that's what it is. Now the question is, Sana and they asked me in Beaver Center, what was about this Islamophobia before 9/11? To be honest, before 9/11, I'll tell you my personal experience, but then if you look at the historical facts, that's not what happened. My daughter had a very good statement at that time. She said, we were under the radar, and after 9/11, we are the one focus of the, especially West at that time. People did not know it because I know before that, a lot of people at work, okay, you're Muslim, they might have some wrong impression or wrong ideas, or sometimes they didn't even know it. Oh, okay. Oh, Pakistan. Oh, that's the same Pakistan and India. Let this kind of like knowledge people. And now I think they can find a lot of Middle Eastern countries on the map at that time. But at that time, we knew that day, all of us knew that there will be immediate reaction and then there will be a delayed reaction. So immediate reaction, I just mentioned briefly that what happened. There was against, and then there were a lot of people stood. And we have to give credit to President Bush at that time. That's what we're going to talk about. What's the expectation for the government now? So in that context, just going to mosque and saying not all Muslim, it's not Islam, it's not this, sends a message. Does it change the people who are Islamophobic overtly or covertly? Probably not. But it puts kind of a lid on that, or people who are, I always say, like a fringe, they might stop. So you're decreasing the intensity and frequency of this racism. So at that time, doing this, although at the same time, President Bush used the word crusades. I don't know if you remember, he said the word used. I personally understood exactly where it was coming from. It's not in that, literal sense of crusades. It's like a, part of the language. We use it all the time but I know I'm originally from Pakistan, and a lot of other Muslim countries there was a very, immediate reaction to that. And people said, should not happen. That's what they're talking about. And they had to kind of, walk back at what have been said. So Islamophobia we'll discuss is like an individual level, community level, and the third one is it's getting worse. It's the media level. I think it's because always whatever is good also have some not so good part of that. So social media has helped us to do a lot of things. The social media is helping you to talk to each other. If we didn't have all this technology, we probably in COVID will be just all isolated, won't be able to have any services. It's helping us, but then the people abuse it too. I'll go a little bit later if you just bear with me about this. The country, our government here has done the Countering Violent Extremism and Joint Terrorism Task Forces and Homeland Security Fusion Center. They started coming up after 9/11 when they started seeing it. But the long-term effects have continued. And unfortunately, last 4 to 6 years didn't help it. It just made it much worse. There's no question about it. Who sets the tone in the country or in a small community is usually the leaders. It can start at the grassroots levels, and those are important too. But you set the tone. You have to say it's right or it's not wrong. So after 9/11, it got worse, and then it was starting slowly and gradually getting a little bit better. And it's strangely, I went. There was arts and faith. It's a interfaith type of program. We have it once a year. It was started on the 10th year of 9/11. We don't know anniversary of, and they said it's a 10th year, and there might be a little more, Islamophobia, anti-Muslim. So they said, we're going to have this program that we stand in solidarity with Muslim. And they started that. And we thought it will be just one time, but it's happening every year. So now this is like a 10th year. So this year, because of COVID, we are not holding it. So it was all done on virtually. And when I went, they were interviewing, and one question this person asked, that were taking interview, he said, well, you know what I've noticed since the COVID started, anti-Muslim rhetoric and Islamophobia is not showing up that much. And I said, you're right. And it's a sad situation because now it shifted, some kind of those hatred shifted towards our Asian and Chinese and those. And so it is that we have to keep an eye how it changes. It's the same type of mentality keeps on changing, finding us against them. So when did Islamophobia start? It did not start after 9/11. It has been there for a long time. So probably there's, if you read the history, there's some that probably there were Muslim even on the ship when Columbus came here. But for sure, there are a lot of slaves from Africa who came here, they were Muslims. And when you start tracing it, I think the earliest one, which really you can do it like early 1800s, some question is maybe 1700. And what happened to them? Most of the people believe that they probably converted to Christianity or they just lost their faith. So that's why it didn't continue. And later on, we started having, Islam came, and then from outside, it came from like early 19th century. It came from India also, from the, like people started coming from Ahmadi group, they came to, and then another group of the Nation of Islam came. And that has already been, because of our Black Muslims and Nation of Islam, it was like against each other. So that created, they had faced a lot of animosity over you too. So I came up this word is early slaves. I mean, there's some, it was 1800, somebody said, there was not a single Mohammedan. It's like a derogatory term at that time used for Muslims who came on the ship. Kind of, okay, even if we have slaves, those were better slaves because they were Christian, kind of in that kind of term. That's what was used. And then there are a couple of other things which led to this entrenched that kind of, even if they can't pinpoint what happened in some people, as that, and the subcontinent, we call it Ghadar, it's like 1857, when it happened, that was British government. So British people here, they had a lot of things because they thought that revolt was started by Muslims. That's what they believe. So they think that how also they started kind of not having this very positive thoughts about or positive representation of Islam and Muslim. Then there's another thing which I take it as, should take it as a compliment, is that Christian people going, and somebody wrote it and he said, I'm forgetting his name. He said this, Muslims are very kind of, I'm prefacing, very averse to conversion. They believe that their faith is the best and all those things, and they will not, and they're very strong compared to Hindus in India, like for conversion. So that was against also that we don't like them because they are not paying attention to Christianity. So that is another that which I did not know before till I read about it. And I said, okay, that is another thing, because yes, that is. We will see more people converting into Islam. Unfortunately, now we have seen Muslims, especially converting to other faiths too. But as a rule, most of the time, Muslim, we believe that's what it is. So I put it this quote unquote, that's a conversion, aversion, and that they didn't like it. Okay. Now, so that means this, we had this Islamophobia, or not very positive image of Islam and Muslims before that. And then we have history of crusades, which is part of the Christianity history that continued. And then, as I said, after 9/11, it hasn't helped and it's gone worse. And if we look at it, I think now it may be still less than 200, but the last I looked at it, there are only 160 terrorists or people identified in USA since 9/11, which is like last couple few years ago, compared to thousands of other terrorist attacks by locals here. And we hear now all the time, that supremacists and all those things, but still media, everything, they're going to give more to these Muslim Islam. So that gets more attention rather than anything. Now, these are all Gallup survey from 2011. So Western society do not respect Muslims. And this is like, you go through this history, it's all few of the things which I touched base, which goes into different Western countries. So you look at this, although we are the most diverse country, we have 52% of the people here, they say that Western society do not respect Muslims. But you have to keep in mind also that this is where 9/11 happened, and the wars with, different countries, Iraq, Afghanistan, those are playing into psyche of people. The least I saw was in Italy, although which I was a little bit, because of Catholic and all those. And so there is like a different way it's how it's playing in people's psyche right now. Now, this is it's a little bit busy slide, but what I'm going to just say is like, who with great deal of prejudice, who are the people who will have the great deal of prejudice towards Muslims or sometimes even other people? So if you have high school or you have some college, you're more likely to have prejudice, okay? So these lower one, the light one, are high school and some college. If you're college graduate, postgraduate, it's much less likely that you will have any prejudice. This is specifically, they were asking about Muslim, compared to then so that may also play another role in what caused the last 4 or 5 years, because the group, they say that with the President Trump, the non-college educated group was higher in his, the supporter. So that might play into this too, that those have like more negative, and so to play to their ideas, to their, make them happy. I think that's why some things started. I always say that first time I heard when President Trump said that I'm asking for complete and total ban, I'm paraphrasing. That was even before he became president. And I listened to it and I just literally, I laughed. I say, for a split second, I say, hey, he goes again with another new thing. But for a split second, as soon as I heard this, everybody clapping and laughing, that's when I became quiet. I said, this is serious. That means there are people who are a large segment of the society who's buying into this racism and Islamophobia. So the question is, what are the expectations from the new government? We always, okay, so I'm not going to get into any politics, but what is Islamophobia? Is this just like against? The question is also one of those questions is about the politics, everything. It's not against. The Islamophobia is less of a hatred of the faith itself. It's also politics and politicization of that plays a major role. So first thing is the pulse of the society will not change. It will be this the same society. You're not changing people. You have a different administration coming into that. So what my assessment is, what probably will decrease is the rhetoric. The hate speech from the highest office will be much less, hopefully. Rebuke of hate speech. I mean, I don't know, most of the people here even paid attention to, but a lot of Muslim countries, and that video was, is going viral, where President-elect Biden was telling a Muslim girl who was wearing hijab, very young, with the mom, that if I become president, things will change. You will be respected because you're the third major, and then, Abrahamic faith. So even that, as I said, it does not change the person who is anti-Muslim or a person who's anti-Semitic. These things don't change. It kind of puts a lid in the people who feel very emboldened by something coming from the top, that will hopefully will get better. There'll be some check. Hopefully there'll be rebuke of hate speech by the leaders. And that will lead to hopefully less acceptance in the communities. Will we change the minds of the people who are already on the extreme? Probably not. What will happen at the political level or those things? I'm just guessing. I don't know how it's going to be because it's like we have our Congress, the rules and all those things. But I think there'll be some positive change towards this ban from, we call it Muslim ban from majority Muslim countries. That will hopefully will be somewhat in positive sense. What will increase is my expectation, is my assessment is probably the hate groups activities will increase. Because when you feel like that your voice is not being heard or you're being expressed or some way, they become more active. That's a human nature. And there will be more covert microaggressions. That will be, so there will be some time it will go up and then it will come down, hopefully, if everybody is on the same page. What will be expression of Islamophobia has been in the past is the physical assault is much less. It's the verbal assault. It's like what we call microaggression. We had this, on one of this racism, and I think it's a very nice term they use. This it's a small cuts. It's like just think about your paper cuts or small cuts, which one cut doesn't do anything. But if you keep on getting cuts after cuts on your fingertips and everything, it injures your hand. It's painful all the time. And that's what it is. What I will I'm going to bring it here, how to counteract it and how not to internalize it. Those are things. So how we can, this prejudice as microaggression or whatever, most important thing is, I'm very, hopeful for the generation, like younger generation, Homa and Sana, all those things. At your generation, hopefully most of you have open, okay? America is our country. We are not here somebody from outside. If we do not accept that, then we always behave in some way different, okay? Yeah, it's much easier for me to meet with the socialized, do everything, who is like me, the Muslim, everything is much easier. But my next door neighbor may not be that, but he or she is still my neighbor. So we have to remember what we taught by Islam, according to the neighbors, they have equal rights on me. So we should interact with them. It's a human nature. I'm sure you know about it. If we know the person, we're less likely to have negative thought process. Eventually it starts going down and down and down. So I'm just going to tell a couple of very, very brief stories that will bring this point up. One is, which is just, I can never forget. We went to Middle East. We went the interfaith trip. So we're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Baha'i. We took the trip in 2007. So there's a small town in Israel where I'm forgetting the name, but I think it's like kind of there are Arab and Muslim, the Jewish and Muslim both live together in a small community. It's like totally different from rest of the Israel. They live together, they're like everything, just like one of the most, I'd say, peaceful community. So they came and we were having discussions. The Muslim leader of that community, he said, so we asked, how is it working? And he said, we have our, challenges. He said, when the Intifada started, my son, who is only 8 years old, came to me and he said, I want to get a lot of rocks so I can throw it on, let's go to there, close to the western wall and start throwing these stones on people. And he said, I was horrified. I'm in part of this community where we are teaching that we can live in peace and we can respect and love each other. So he said, why do we have to go so far? We are here. Our next door is Jewish. Why don't you go and throw a stone at them? He said, no, I cannot throw in that. He's my friend. He's my school buddy. He said, oh, okay. Well, the other person he named, he said, he's going to come back from the army pretty soon. You can throw a stone at him. He said, no, I cannot do that. He brings me chocolate. He's my best friend, kind of those. So when you know, these things will start breaking down. So make an effort. We are in minority. Don't expect majority to make an effort. They might, but we should make an effort to go and know. Most of the people are not prejudiced. Either they are ignorant, or if we don't go and tell our side of the story, they're going to listen to the other side of the story. So counteract this, that when people believe Muslims are not open to other faiths, races, or cultures. I always tell people, I say, I give you every right to claim that you have full, all the whole truth in faith, but I expect that you're going to give me the same right too, that this is my faith and this is what I believe. So how many? 44% of Muslim Americans are integrated, on par with Mormons and greater than Jewish American. But as I say, I have a lot of faith in the younger generation. You'll get more. Integration does not mean that you're giving up your hope, your faith, what we are. We still have that much. Remember that conversion, aversion? Our faith gives us that area that we can go and talk to those people. Social media is good, but you have to be active. So don't become very aggressive. Don't become very defensive, and monitor what our response are. Okay, somebody comes and tells me a Muslim are doing this and that, I say, you're wrong. That person is never going to listen to that answer, because that's what they want to get, that kind of reaction on. Be very respectful, give your point, and then there are 5% people on both sides. 5% people don't care what's happening in the world. They don't care what faith, and they have no prejudice, but they're in their own world. And then the 5% people have the worst prejudice. We need to make sure you cannot win those 5% or 10%, even if you call 15%. Spend more of your efforts into the people who are in the middle. They will listen to you. They will be your strength. So stress over positives. It's a win-win situation. We have our faith. The more I read about it, it's so much greatness that we don't even ourselves know all the time. As I said, don't become defensive. Don't play into their plan of games. They want you to become defensive. Identify common narratives in media, politics. I have come and lots of times, I'm keeping it eye on time too. So please, Homa, let me know when my time is up. So it's a brief example. Long time ago, when the Afghanistan war started, and there were, like Al-Qaeda and back and forth on Afghanistan and Pakistan's border, CNN, the news was is saying that the Muslim terrorists did this, and they had this kind of a terrorist attack. Muslim terrorists this that, and then Pakistan army went there and they defeated, and that place has been clear. So then next day somebody called me from, I think it was from Post-Dispatch or anything. I said, if you are identifying a person who doing something wrong by his faith, why aren't you identifying the army, Pakistani army, who's also Muslim, who did the right thing and took care of that? When it happens, please write it to the news media, write it to them, bring it to their attention. That's how these microaggressions are going on. Take part in rallies, go there. Unfortunately, what it is, that most of us who came from South Asia, we came from those societies that these rallies and all those democracy was not very mature. So we never thought that this does anything. We always thought you went to rallies, you're going to get hurt, or these are not the good people in there. So we never took part in it. Here, that's your right, do it. That's how you're going to be on the front. Strength is always in numbers and cohesiveness. Don't make one thing. I'm so much against this. Okay, we have this small group is doing this, and then another group comes up with a different name. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. You're breaking yourself up. just join under one umbrella. That's where you will have more powerful voice. MSAs, I say, young generation, I always believe they are our best resources. When you encounter Islamophobia, distract, delegate, direct, and delay. Those are the one you should do it. I mean, if you notice somebody else is having it and you're not there, go be just very respectful, but don't become defensive. Don't start creating a scene. If you can, record it. Media, that's what it's going to do. Just record it, and that will help us too.
Ghazala Auntie, I'm going to jump in here. I was just wondering, can you maybe give us an example of when you've used these 4Ds to fight or encounter Islamophobia?
Okay, let's say somebody, let me give you an example. Somebody is wearing a hijab and we are in a, let's say, grocery store somewhere, and somebody says something. Okay, I will give you an example. One of my friend, and I thought, how would I have done it? She is, they're very well-to-do. She was in a bank, and she actually helps her husband's practice. And she was at the counter, and she's going through money back and forth, and it's taking forever. I mean, it's not because she's very well educated, speaks English, everything. The person behind her kind of said, oh, but she was wearing Pakistani clothes at that time in the bank. Why don't you go back to your country? And so what's his name? Manager came and stopped it. And I thought, if I was there, what would I have done? I would have probably got very angry, but I said no. But then I read it, okay. So I would go first, the person who is being harassed or is being, ask that person and see if you can. The best thing is, if you don't think that the person who's aggressor or is harassing is not violent, then try to come in between. So you're distracting that person's what it is in front of them. Okay, delegate, take it away from that person who's being harassed. Would you like to move here, or would you like me to help you in any way?
Mm-hmm.
Or directly towards that person who's harassing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And usually it's a good thing, just look in the person who's harassing, look in their eyes, be direct, but be respectful, and delay in any case. Why are you saying, if I were there and I was angry, I said, if somebody said, go back to your country, and one time I said, then only people who can stay here are the Native Americans, right? Everybody should go back to his or her countries. I mean, the Muslim, maybe some Muslims are here for centuries. We are obvious because we are not Caucasian, but everybody's, grandparents, great-grandparents, they came from other countries. And I always say, okay, if we're going to choose that sentence, then only people who deserve to live here is Native American. And when I said that, I think there was one Native American in the sitting in, and he was very happy. He said, I like it. So that's what you do it. Try to just delay and see if you can. And hopefully that way you teach the other person too, there is somebody else to help. Now, another thing is, I put it Islamophobia. Please,
Mm-hmm.
anybody else who is being also, any other. If you see a Jewish being attacked, go and help them. If a black, do attack those them.
That's a really good point, because we can't expect people to stand up for us if we're not standing up for them.
Exactly.
I mean, I think, not to get too political because we're trying to avoid that, but I think that's why it's so important that Muslim people be a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, because a lot of the issues that have affected them have affected us, especially after 9/11. We were very much targeted by law enforcement.
That's correct. So, I mean, exactly. Stand up with other people. Japanese underwent, and they had internment.
Mm-hmm.
Now our Chinese friends are, so stand up with them. And somebody says that, so those are, talk to your children. I mean, those are the things I would say. I will stop here and give the time for questions.
Well, I had one question for you, because you touched on microaggressions in your presentation. What are the most common forms of microaggressions that you think happen within the context of Islamophobia?
I mean, there are lots of them that you have the most commonly, I think it happened, which bothers me the most, is at the school level. Okay.
Okay.
The children, that's what bothers me. I said, if it's happening to me, I think I can deal with it. I can respond in hopefully a positive way or a mature way. The children, okay. Okay, this is these Muslims or microaggression, all these. I mean, I call these movies which are this, what was it, American Sniper and all those things. These are all negative depiction of Muslim. At work, okay, they start talking about, and then suddenly, immigration or something, they keep quiet. Or they don't know about civilization and those kind of, there are small things here and there. Also, I mean, one thing I would say, if somebody asks you a question and you feel that either it's ignorant or they're being intentional, I always give benefit of doubt that it's probably they're ignorant,
Right.
I was asked by a very good, our staff in my hospital, how did you become a doctor in Pakistan? So I didn't understand the question.
Yeah.
I said, I went to med school. I mean, I thought, this is the way that I had amused. As I went to med school. She said, no, the women have no voice there or something. And I just said, you know what? Immediately came to mind. I said, well, I agree. There are some areas in our country, in Pakistan, that women don't have rights and we have to improve. And that has nothing to do with Islam. That's cultural. And I said, but let me bring to your attention, we are also the first one to have a woman prime minister.
Right.
And I say, you might not see that many judges here in America. I say, come to Pakistan, I'll show it to you. And I say, we have a med school for women. And I said, they're the dean and all those things. Another microaggression, I give this example to everybody. I won't name the person. I mean, I thank Allah, Mia. Everybody works hard here, everything, whatever I get, I say, Allah's rahmat on me. Somebody said, our society is so open. That's why you got where you are right here in America. Thinking that. I said, so I looked at him and I said, no, let me tell you one thing. If I was back in Pakistan by now, I will be the dean of my university. I said, this like, I just wanted to bring you to their attention that there are people who put blocks in front of women here. They put, this like, so these are kind of things saying that, okay, you are not this or that, or Islam teaches this. Mostly the microaggression will come women's rights and terrorism.
It is interesting that you say that. And I think not all of it can be blamed on people. I think a lot of it is the representation that they see in the media. Like it's this one-sided thing. And it's so funny. You brought up this question where someone asked you, how did you become a doctor? I remember this girl asked me, are the women in your family really educated? And on the inside, I will be totally honest, I was kind of offended. I'm like, you're assuming that I come from this oppressed background where in fact all the women from both sides of my family are incredibly educated. Everyone has a professional education, everyone works. But I think the view and the images that are in her head are very different about women in that part of the world. So I'm like, okay, there's a certain amount of brainwashing that has gone into this. And yeah, I guess it's important. Be tolerant when someone asks you a question. Educate instead of retaliate.
Exactly, that's right. I mean, educate them. This is what it is. This is, I mean, and I think it's not only here. My sister lives in Australia, and the question was asked. She went there in '78. Sometimes in '80s, she was asked. So the first time you rode in a car was when you came to Australia. I mean, so she's very funny. She said, no, you're right. I used to ride on a camel to go to my university and then wrote all those articles and sent it here. I mean, they got that. She said, we have planes. That's how I came to Australia. I mean, this is so, I think that's what I'm saying. If first question, make sure you assess that it may be ignorance. So the person who asked you is ignorant, is not intolerant. But if we are not bring them into that sphere closer to us, then they will go to the other side.
Yeah. You know, this is so funny. The way things happen, I'm handling a divorce case for a Muslim lady in the community. And I think her husband is trying to intimidate her. And he's like, I hired a very powerful attorney. He's white. And I think he's trying to imply that I'm Muslim and I'm Desi, that I don't know how to do my job. I'm like, look, we both have American law degrees.
Exactly.
I know just as much as he does. And she was all worried. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Your husband's just trying to scare you. I mean, it goes in so many different ways. So
let me tell you that briefly, I will put it, that's common to practically all the faiths. We have some group, unfortunately, we have self-loathing too. You have people who will just internalize. That's why I tell you, that's why I say the younger people in school, that bothers me the most. I don't want them to internalize these negative, coming up from that. That's what we are. We need to make sure at home they get the most positive and go out and fight the world. I mean, your faith is beautiful. Your culture is beautiful. I just tell my kids, you have the opportunity to learn from East and good of East and good of West. I mean, you're in the best position.
Right.
So
I know. I mean, I think it's so important that you tell people, especially kids who are growing up here, that you should be very proud of your heritage and your background and the values that you were raised with. They're not wrong.
There's nothing wrong.
Bad, So yeah, definitely. You try to impart that on people. And it's an interesting story you brought about your friend at the bank. I was recently contacted by a Muslim man. I believe he's Arab, from Palestine or Jordan. And he and his wife were filing a divorce here, and they were having an issue with the haq mahr, right? And so they went to the judge here in St. Louis County, and they were presenting that issue. And because Islamic law is not recognized here, he's like, the judge got very angry with me. He's like, if you want to follow these, Sharia principles and stuff, go back to your own country and get a divorce there. So that's kind of a microaggression too. He's like, but I live here now, so I'm not going to go back to my home country to get the divorce,
So I'm the wrong person. You're in law, and I see Noman do all this law. But I mean, haq mahr has nothing to do with Sharia law. It's a part of contract. They wrote a contract. You will be paid so much money. That's it.
They don't recognize it in Missouri. So I mean, he was like, but this is the contract. It was part of our marriage, and judge was just very angry and basically got rid of him. So
I feel like when we're talking about personal experiences, when I was in high school and when 9/11 happened, I remember our principal calling all the Muslims into their office and telling us that if you guys are threatened or are afraid in any way, come directly to me. And at that time, I was like, what is going to happen to like Muslims now? And that's when my mom told me that when your faith and your culture and your religion is attacked, that's the day or the time you realize that your faith needs to be strong, and that's when it really shines. Like, this is the time for you to show what Muslims are really about, what Islam is.
Exactly.
And I will share a story about a friend of mine. This happened to her sister right after 9/11. I grew up in Chicagoland. So her sister, Arab girl, wears hijab. She was a nursing student. And within a couple of weeks of 9/11, there was like this whole anthrax scare. This guy went out and rubbed like white talcum powder all over himself. And then he pointed her out and he's like, that girl threw anthrax on me. And they arrested her. And it turned out to be a complete fake thing, but people were so scared.
That's right.
That was
paranoid at that time.
Those couple of years were very scary. Even before 9/11, I don't know if you guys remember the Oklahoma bombing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, I think that was like the first major attack in America. And
let's see, it was a terrorist attack. We ourselves don't use that word. I said, go and look at the definition of terrorist. Oklahoma was a terrorist attack. And all of these are terrorist attack. Why is that exactly? What is that? if somebody attacks and it's Muslim, you go and go, you're going to attack the country and all those things. And if it's a white nationalist doing the same kind of, even worse than that, that's freedom of speech. I mean, all which hurt people's property, everything. We have to look into that. Terrorism is terrorism no matter who commits it.
Oh, yeah. True.
Ghazala Auntie, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you identified 3 levels on which to fight Islamophobia: individual, community, media. In terms of community, what do you suggest? What kinds of tactics or solutions are available to us?
So that's exactly, community wise, we need to be, so look at the, we don't pay attention to what's being published in them. I mean, there are very few people who work with me. Noman is there. I mean, we need to community level look at what's in the news media, make groups, the younger people in journalism. I think the people who are in journalism or like law, what's being published, very positive, just write it to the news media. How many times we get letters to editors from Muslims? Rarely. I mean, how many? We have highly educated people and we don't get involved in that. Write just op-ed, write a positive thing, write about, we don't always have to write, oh, Islam is great. Just pick up some issues which is local and write it. That's when we'll start having positive image of that. Community level here, I was talking about, we should just start putting in ads on the radio, TV, you know, like other minority groups they have done. That's how we do it. And like invite non-Muslim to your places of worship. Another thing is invite non-Muslim to your homes, please. Okay. A lot of people, oh, I won't let my kids, school is fine, but they're not their friends. If non-Muslim, they were more than welcome to come and stay our home and spend night here. That's what I was open. I said, you can come and stay here with my kids, you know, it's the same way. Mostly they gravitated more to, this is like, come up with that. We are open. We have this great faith and the community, the other thing is get involved, like you already mentioned. We are doing much more this and during COVID is go to soup kitchens, go to like other, so we need to do 2 things. We need to fight it. We also need to elevate that our image. Building our image is our job. Yeah. It's not going to come back. I shouldn't say come back. It's not going to be there without us doing anything. I said that's another thing. The same thing I learned when we went to that Israel, the trip we went to. We were sitting in Tel Aviv and the rabbi said something which clicked to me so much. It means so much. He said, because Muslims have been majority all throughout the history, even while you're minority in Israel, they behave as majority. Yeah. And we have been minority all our life and we behave as, even we are majority, like we are ruling because Muslims say, oh, I don't care. They don't think good of me. I don't need to go and explain it to them. No, explain to them. They don't know it. So that's a community that we have to write articles, invite them, go and meet with them, have panel discussion, all those things.
You know, you brought up an interesting point about inviting people. I remember when I was in college, Ramadan was, you know, during the school year. So every day there used to be like an iftar. And students would take turns bringing it. And there was this one Hindu guy who would come to like all of them. And then one day he brought iftar for all the students. It was like must have been at least 100 of us. And he's like, you guys have been so nice to me. And you have come here and let me eat for free so much that I thought it was the least I could do to like give back to you guys. And I was amazed. I was like, he didn't have to do that. We were more than happy to have this guy come and spend time with us. And subhanAllah, I mean, I don't know where he is and what he's doing right now, but he felt very welcomed. And I'm so glad he had that positive feeling.
Dr. Ghazala, there's a question on Facebook. Is how do we motivate the community to get involved in things that you mentioned for larger community engagement?
Talk to, bring it up to, let me say, the younger generation, or I mean, don't get offended. I mean, younger, but we are older. So, but talk to your parents and all that. They are the one I think are not getting involved. Social media, send it to everybody. Okay, we're going to get together. Let's come up with, find a common, which will all of you happy. Okay, we're going to, I mean, COVID is gone, hopefully. Then we're going to go to, let's say we're going to go soup kitchen, or we're going to serve these people, or we're going to go, and few people do it, but we should do it much more. We're going to clean this highway. And then let me tell you one thing, I also learned it. I was taught growing up, if you do a good job, just you don't have to advertise it. Do it because you're doing it for that. Here, I will say advertise it. Okay, I'm too big into that. If you're going to do it, call the media, we're going to do it. Send it to them. So it's simple, use social media. That is your biggest thing. And also talk to your parents that they need to, maybe we are getting older towards that, it might not, but you need to take over. Get out and just be, we cannot live like that we are separate, Caucasian are separate and other groups are separate. We'll never make a cohesive community. And that's just going to break down the whole country, because you cannot have these patches of people here and there. We all have to work together. We have to work together. We all have to bring our beauty of our culture, our faith together. We can offer a lot. One thing is start reading about your faith. That you know, I mean it. We think we know our faith. We don't. We just know basic.
That's a very important point. I think this is an issue for, I think, a lot of us. When someone asks you a question, you need to give an educated, appropriate answer. Yeah, and using, yes, knowledge is power.
Knowledge, yeah.
Educate yourself about the pressing issues so you can talk to other people about them meaningfully.
Well, actually, we learn more about, I always say going to interfaith panel discussion, I learned more about Islam myself. Rather, I learned about other faiths too, but I learned about Islam a lot.
You know, I think this is just a guess, but I think when you grow up in a Muslim majority country, the way my parents did and stuff, you take certain things for granted. You assume they just know it. And
exactly.
Over here, they don't. Like recently, I was at a networking meeting last week, and I thought everybody here knows about Ramadan and Eid. And this lady was like, no, I don't know. And she has to be my mother's age. I was like, oh, I mean, there's so much awareness now in the last 10, 15 years, but she didn't know. So I was like, okay, well then I gotta tell her, you know, don't assume people automatically know. So, because I was like, no, Eid is our big holiday, Christmas is not. And that's how the conversation got started.
Call people on Eid. I mean, invite them, They will be happy to come. Go to law enforcement agency, just drop some cookies or something, or next Eid, hopefully it is, just in your area, cook something or something and just take it for them. You'd be surprised how much positive feelings it creates, you know. Talk with them. They're not our enemies. And let me tell you, even if they have negative thoughts, if we keep on doing right things, I mean, we'll be fine. At other levels, most of our communities are doing great. You know, most are educated, they're good, you know, positions, everything, we do everything right. I mean, most of the people, who was that, Van John on CNN, he said, you should be lucky if you have a Muslim neighbor, you know, because how good they are, all those things. People know how, I mean, they call it like a model minority. I mean, deep down, they all believe it. When they talk with me a little bit open, they know. They say, all people, you come from there, you're all highly educated. And they also know this, that most of the highly educated, or the called cream of the crop, just came out. So they know they have people who are not on welfare or anything. They know we are contributing so much to the community. So
I mean, there was a time, like long time ago, where you would say, I'm from Pakistan. They go, where is that? And if you, and they're like, oh, it's beside India. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And even now, like, not now, but like if there was a majority Desi or Muslim like houses, people would move out. But now it's the opposite. They're actually looking for
Exactly.
neighborhoods where you have Muslim communities, because you know that's where it's safest.
Exactly.
You know the schools are going to be great.
That's right.
The neighbor is going to, yeah.
That's
So
right, because exactly. I mean,
Sana, you brought up an interesting point. My mom lived in London for a couple of years in the 60s, right? My grandparents moved there temporarily. And she's like, we'd be sitting on the bus and people would get up and move to a different seat. Like, it was that different, you know? Now it's not like that over there. She's like, people didn't want to be anywhere near us back then.
exactly. I mean, yeah, this is everybody, every gender, and one thing I give positive or kudos to America is that they look at their negative spots or negative things and they are willing to work on this. Not the whole country maybe, but majority are willing to. So they have come, you know, a long way from where we were. I don't think there's any other country in this world who would have such a diversified population and still have all those, you know, everybody is able to reach his or her, if they want to, their dreams. I tell people, I mean, I'm just because I'm from Pakistan, somebody said, so after 9/11, and another thing is my common, I think a lot of people say that. I said, when I'm here, I'm defending Pakistan and Islam. When I go to Pakistan, I start defending America because they have totally wrong ideas about what America does or does to us. I went soon after 9/11 and they said, oh, you know, it seems like your life is, oh, how are you going to live there? I said, I'm fine. I go to work. No, but nothing is happening to me. And I say, I can tell you one thing with confidence, that if some Americans would have destroyed this Minar-e-Pakistan, which is like a big, you know, like in Lahore.
Tower of, Pakistan.
Yeah, tower. I said, we would have, I said, the mobs would have done so much harm and killed so many people in that country of, you know, American. I say, look at that whole America. It happened. The Constitution, everything is protecting us. People are angry at Muslim. I say, yes, they are. I said, but the Constitution and what it is, that protects us. And there's this middle, which majority I told you, which came to mosque and everywhere. They are the strength of this community, this country.
They are the backbone. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. And then we need to be with them. That's what we need to do.
Okay,
No,
so
I know, despite everything, sorry, Sana, I cut you off, but a lot of times when people have problem or trouble or they need a referral or guidance, the masjid is the first place they go to. So.
Well, masjid is because it will slowly change. It will become like other countries. Masjid is because our first generation, when we came, that was the only place which was our anchor, you know. We got for children education, we were meeting everybody. So that is, masjid will still be for all, for the faith and everything, but social and political outside there will also thrive.
So ladies, we have about 5 minutes left. I'm gonna open Facebook if they have any questions they want to ask Dr. Ghazala.
Okay.
And then
sure.
Let's see. But I do want to mention what CAIR-Missouri, as you guys know, it is fighting for civil rights for Muslims in America. And with the $30 recurring donations, you do get a CAIR water bottle and a CAIR mask, CAIR-Missouri mask. Huma, do you want to add anything about CAIR-Missouri?
Yes, CAIR-Missouri is awesome.
Nice.
No, alhamdulillah, I just wanted to say that CAIR-Missouri is very much alive and well. I know because of COVID-19, we have been a little MIA, but we are very much working hard behind the scenes. There was some restructuring we need to do. We have added people to the board. So, and hopefully, inshallah, in the upcoming months, we're going to start getting more active. Like this whole Islamophobia conversation that we're having, Sana was the one who organized it and set it up. And you can hear my kid in the back. And we are hoping to do a series of these. So stay tuned and please join us.
Yes. So looks like Dr. Ghazala, we don't have any questions since we answered the questions that we had sent before. So thank you so much for coming. And it was a very detailed presentation.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for spending your time with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Good luck. And we all need to work together.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Happy holidays, you guys.
You too.